We want to turn to our first story, which is increasing tensions between South Africa and the United States after President Donald Trump and friends have taken up what they claim is a cause. That is the cause of the white South Africans who they claim are being brutally oppressed there in South Africa. It's quite the statement. But to get into the finer points of all of this, we are very, very honored to be joined here on the show by Thapelo Mohapi, who's the General Secretary of Abahlali baseMjondolo, which is the shack dwellers movement in South Africa. Thapelo, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. There's a lot that's happening in the country, in the world. Thank you for being a media that is not captured and giving grassroots movements like ourselves an opportunity to vast our opinion in open. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And it's fantastic to have you all here. And Abahlali, you just released a comprehensive statement on the issues going on between South Africa and the United States. And I guess my first question for you here, I mean, it seems absurd to even have to ask this, but I think it's important context for people who don't know. Is there some form of oppression being waged against white South Africans over land ownership? Because that's allegedly what Trump is alleging, that their land is being taken by the government, and that's a form of racism against white South Africans. So, I mean, is that a fair framing of what's really happening?
Yes, thank you once again for the opportunity. I want to make it very clear, explicit, that there is no white genocide in South Africa. The only oppressed and marginalized people in South Africa are the black majority who were dispossessed of their land through colonialism and further deprived of their own land and their own citizenship by the apartheid regime. The expropriation of land without compensation bill that was signed is nothing but a piece of paper that will not retain the land that was taken away from us. And I think it's a fear from the white South Africans, racist South Africans, who are Afrikaners, who took our land in 1652 when Jan van Riebeeck came to South Africa and dispossessed us of our land. And yet they are the ones who cry foul as if there's anything. But in anything, in 30 years of democracy, 70% of the land belongs to the 10% of the white minority, while we as black majority continue to live in the less parts of the land in this country. So there's no white genocide. The rich land, the farms, the wine lands in the Stellenbosch, in Cape Town, the rich land, the wealth of this country is still in the hands of the few white people that live in this country. So there's no white genocide, there's no land confiscation that is taking place, and there would be no land confiscation because what is going to happen, we are going to ensure that the land that was taken from our ancestors is returned back. So you can't confiscate something that belongs to you. Land was stolen from us, land was taken from us, and we cannot allow people like Trump, who are racist, white supremacists, who are going to tell us that the land reforms that is going to take place, and then the land reform is going to take place from below. It's the people on the ground who are going to take the land, not necessarily dispossessing, but we are taking what belongs to us, what was taken from our ancestors.
You know, I'm curious if you could speak to the fact that, many people do see this not just as a response to right-wing propaganda by Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who's also, of course, South African, but as a direct punishment for South Africa's leadership in bringing Israel to the ICJ over genocide in Gaza. So how does this attack on South Africa's economy and sovereignty fit into a broader pattern of retaliation against global South nations that are challenging imperialist powers?
Yes, we cannot. This is very clear that the stance that has been taken by South Africa in taking Israel into the International Court of Justice for the genocide, and that is the only genocide we know, not the white genocide. There's no. If in fact genocide took place in South Africa, it took place during apartheid. Black people were massacred by white people during apartheid because white people thought that they had the privilege and have the right and superior to actually remove black people and kill them. None of the white people have been massacred in a genocide. So, so that real genocide that is taking place on the people of Palestine, we commend South Africa for the work that they've done to ensure that they challenge the superior powers, such as that of Israel as well as the United States. So we are punished for that indirectly. We know what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the use of Rwanda by the Western powers to actually challenge South Africa is exactly what is happening. They are using an indirect strategy to actually attack South Africa for the position that we have taken. And we are very proud of the stance that the government of South Africa has taken to ensure that Benjamin Netanyahu is recognized as a criminal and will be arrested if he goes to other countries, unless, of course, he goes to the United States of America. But this right wing that we are seeing in the world, in Mexico, in Argentina, and of course, to some extent, the right wing in the national government, in the government of national unity in South Africa, where we are seeing the right wing gaining its traction and so forth, is a worrying factor for us. And we are saying that we need to have a united front of the left in the world. We need to have humanity. We need to have people who are going to fight against these, maniac like your Trump of this world and your Netanyahu of this world. And we need to bring the world into humanity, because if we continue in this manner, we will have nowhere to go. I don't know. I mean, it is surprising that the richest people in the world are people who don't use their brain, like your Elon Musk. By the way, we are not proud that Elon Musk was born in South Africa. America can have him.
Well, listen, we won't call for him to be sent back. Don't worry at all. We don't want him either, but we don't want to.
We don't want him either. We don't want him either. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
You know, one of the things that I thought was very notable about the statement you all made at ABM is you made the point that no matter what criticisms you've raised of the government in South Africa, you've never called for sanctions because of the impact it could have on average people. And you talk a little bit about the possibility of the impact to HIV/AIDS funding, AGOA, different things like that could come with U.S. sanctions. So talk about that, if you could, the real impact of sanctions on a personality, and why, despite having your own strong critiques of the ANC government, you've never called for that form of action against South Africa.
Thank you very much for that. We believe that these white Afrikaners, in terms of the solidarity and AfriForum, maybe I need to break down who are these people. These are the people who were privileged during apartheid, and they don't want to let go of their privilege. They continue to be racist. They continue to see white people as superior to black people. They are not, they're unpatriotic. They don't like black people. So their formation is actually to deal with black people, and particularly the poor and marginalized. So these are people who are against transformation, who do not want to be part of this country unless they are the ones who are leading. We have here a place called Orania, a state that is for Afrikaners. And it's clear, they're very clear that they don't want any black people in that area. They call it Afrikaner nationalism, and that only people who speak Afrikaans, who are white in color, must exist in that city. They want to even have their own currency within our own country. So these are people who don't want to be South Africans. I was very surprised when they were given an opportunity to take up asylum in the US and they refused. Because during apartheid, the very same people referred to themselves as European. In this country, we had separate amenities. If you want to go to the beach and swim, there were beaches for white people. And in those beaches, there was a written on the wall, non-European are not allowed in this particular area. And now they call themselves indigenous of South Africa, and they don't want to leave. It's because they know that they are living in a privileged society where they have everything, they have access to land and so forth. So it is very unfortunate that we have these sanctions that have imposed on us. A lot of people in our hospitals will suffer as a result of this. Staff will not be paid, and when staff is not paid, even we have the ARVs will not be distributed. As we speak right now, people are actually stressed and out of that get sickness before this even happens, because they don't know whether they are going to get their ARVs in the near future. But it shows of a government and leaders who do not care about the death, and this is a genocide on its own. When you deprive Black marginalized people of a health care, provision in terms of the ARVs. So it's a concern in our movement. We work with marginalized people. And when these were introduced, we have the Action Treatment Campaign, who fought against for ARVs to be provided in South Africa. And at that, before then, people were dying left and right like flies. So now that this is going to be removed, we are foreseeing a lot that is going to happen. So economically, people who are active in the economy, who are HIV positive, who have relied on these antivirals, will now suffer. Some of them will lose along the way. Of course, we know that in the AGOA, he's going to take away that. Before the Democrats came into power, Trump wanted to remove it in any way. These white racists who left South Africa for the US, and it's not only Elon Musk, there are others who are whispering in Donald Trump's ears, have hatred so much of Black people in this country that they would want Black people to be, to die in numbers. I don't know why, but there is a white supremacy campaign by certain white people who are in the US, who are now finding their place through the Trump administration, so that they can deal with, and these were white racists who did, when 1994 came and Black people were allowed to vote and Black people were actually running the country, they left the country and they are in the US. Now they get an opportunity to actually punish us. It is unfortunate that the Trump administration takes the advice of such people. So, Elon Musk is one of the beneficiaries of apartheid. His father was an engineer during apartheid, and he benefited from there. And then he went to Canada, and then ended up in the US. But he's a product of depriving Black people of education, the right to access the wealth, and so forth. So he's benefited from South Africa. He owes us, if anything, we can say that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really incredible. I'm just curious to know how this narrative coming out of the US, in addition to these actual material punishments from the Trump administration, how are they playing out among South African whites in South Africa?
Well, besides the solidarity, which is a white union representing, these are people who want to actually build an Afrikaner-only university. They are opposing laws that have been employed in South Africa when it comes to education, the Bella Bill, which allows Black people to go to any school, including the Afrikaner schools, because those schools benefited during apartheid, and they are more well-resourced than the Black school in the townships. They are against the NHI, which will ensure that Black people access the same health care. If the health care in this country drops, we are all going to have an effect, including the rich and the poor. If it improves, we all get a better healthcare system. They are against the expropriation of land without compensation. So, and of course, you have the AfriForum who represent the interest of Afrikaners. These people have built borders amongst themselves. They have their own security, private companies. They don't rely from government. They have everything. So we think that these people are getting funds from the US that we don't know about. And have been getting funds from the US that we don't know about, because they are running their own neighborhood, they are running their own country, within the country, and they do as they please. And we are seeing Black people who move into these suburbs being removed, called people who are causing chaos, people who are causing crime, people who are bringing noise and pollution. So we continue to be called what we were during apartheid. White people can call us anything that they want because they have security, they've built walls, and they can do whatever they want. So it is unfortunate that this is happening. However, we do have progressive white people who have said and come forward and said, I am an Afrikaner, but the interest of solidarity and that of AfriForum does not represent me. I'm a South African. I want to remain to be a South African. So there are people who are seeing the true colors of these racist people who are in our country. It is unfortunate that nothing has been done so far, because what they have done is amount to treason. And these organizations should be banned, and they should not be operating in South Africa, not because we are anti-whites, not because we are anti-Afrikaners, but because what they have done shows that they do not care about our country, that they can speak to governments. We want to make it clear as South Africans that we are a sovereign country. We will not be told by anyone. We will not, in fact, be bullied by any administration. And I hope that the government of South Africa, as neoliberal as it is, that it does not succumb to what Trump is saying. Trump cannot run this country. Maybe he can take over Greenland. Maybe he can take over Panama and other countries, but he should not come here. And if he does, we will, of course, have no other means but to defend our land. But expropriation without compensation will take place from below. This of the government, it's just a piece of paper. It doesn't say much. It speaks about government actually negotiating with the so-called landowners, those who stole the land. If negotiation fails, then government can actually expropriate without compensation. So it doesn't say expropriate without compensation, take our land back, but there are negotiations. If negotiation fails, then only then you can expropriate. So it doesn't, have any, guarantee for us as Black and marginalized people who are living in the urban areas, the urban poor, as well as in the rural areas.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Thapelo Mohapi, General Secretary of the Shack Dwellers Movement in South Africa, thank you so much for giving us some of your time here in the Freedom Side.
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. I want to say this, we have not been given an opportunity by other media houses, the ones that are captured, because we want to speak out. We want to send a narrative to everyone, because we are very glad that the United Nations has not taken that stance of the Trump of racist and white supremacy. But also we are very grateful that the European Union has come out to say, no, they support South Africa. But we would really want to actually to speak from a grassroots level and say, even though we do not agree with the South African government, but we love our country and we love our people, and we would never ever suppress our people to such an extent that we would speak bad about our country and ask for sanctions on South Africa, because we know sanctions does not impact the politicians in South Africa. It impacts the poor and marginalized in the grassroots level. So thank you very much for this opportunity. It's very rare for any media house to actually give us this opportunity.